You ever have a friend who told you about this one time his girlfriend or his wife just woke up angry with no reason, horrible, nasty, and later he finds out that the reason she was upset with him is because she dreamt that he did something stupid. So she acted in reality as though he deserved it. And, well, depending on who you ask, maybe he did. Now, that story, I personally have had it happen, but I think it's the kind of story that gets around a lot. I think a lot of people know a friend that had that happen to, or maybe it happened to them directly. Because dreams are the kind of thing that every human has, and they do really impact our life. So, why do people absolutely despise dream sequences in stories? That's part of what I was thinking when I read Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. Now, I think an important thing to differentiate is there are different interpretations of dreams with more or less merit to them, let's say. The two big schools I'm going to consider as the Freudian explanation and the Jungian explanation. Now, I do have to put in a disclaimer here. I am not a Jung expert. I am not a Freud expert. I'm not a psychologist. I am not a historian. I am not a philosopher or a savant or whatever. I'm an engineer and a writer, which, by the way, I've got a new book coming out. It's science fiction. It's Gamma Coin. Link in the description. Pre-orders are live. It's really good, but there's no dream sequences in this book. Maybe there should be, though. Now, the Freud explanation is that it's a manifestation of what's on our mind, what we're repressing, things that we need to confront, so stuff like that. And that's one interpretation. The Jung explanation for dreams is that it is the communication between your unconscious and your conscious mind. And the reason that they are so nonsensical is because the unconscious mind doesn't work in language, it works in symbols and ideas, and is trying to map its idea communication into something that the ego can pick up and hopefully contextualize, internalize, and assimilate. He gets into a lot of beliefs about how the ego has to grapple with internal mental constructs like the psyche, the shadow, the anima, etc. And that definitely gets into the realm of I am not educated enough on Jung to have a particular opinion on. However, the fundamental idea for Jung dream analysis is that the idea that the dreams have meaning, that they are representations of archetypical stories personalized to the dreamer specifically. They have to draw on their associations, their memories, their thoughts and feelings, because those things in the dream, such as imagine that you are in a dark cave fighting monsters and you can't find the way out as a bigger monster is chasing you or something, right? Those that has to be in the context of what you, the conscious mind, associates with those things, with those ideas, with those symbols. You might actually think that caves are, once lit up, are some of the most beautiful structures in nature. Or you associate caves with this one time you got stuck in the darkness for 3 days or something, and people had to come rescue you, and it's the most traumatic moment of your life. Those two people will have very different interpretations of the same dream, let's call it. And that is something that, in my opinion, it offers an explanation for why a story should want to include dreams here and there. Historically, I'm also going to throw this out there. Basically, every culture around the world believed strongly that dreams were messages from the gods and often foretold the future and indicated how one should behave going forward. That's just part. It is so widespread that it is clearly part of human nature to believe that. And maybe a modern neuroscientist goes, oh, but that's just an accident because when you dream one thing and then something similar happens, you've already primed those neural circuits so they have a stronger reaction, and it just gives this illusion. Maybe some loser is going to make that, biological. But it doesn't change the fact that movie viewers, readers, consumers are going to have that as part of their life if they actually remember their dreams. By the way, let me know in the comments below. Do you actually remember your dreams? I find that most people don't. I'm currently trying to make an active effort to remember my dreams. I've started writing them down when I can. But specifically, I try to write down the dreams that are like unfiltered ideas from my subconscious. Not me drifting in and out of wakefulness around my alarm and my ego interfering with the dream. I'm trying to write down the unfiltered stuff, and it's hard to remember to roll over to a notepad and write them down before it vanishes from my brain. But most people don't remember their dreams, which I think actually leads to how a lot of writers will do dreams wrong. Because there's this kind of foggy misconception that, oh, well, it's a dream, anything can happen. And that seems to give writers the idea that they can just have some spin-off, non-consequential story thing happen, and then, oh, don't worry about that, though, it was just a dream. But that's not how dreams work, really. That it comes across as very indulgent on the writer's behalf. And that, I think that often is what turns people off of the idea of having dream sequences, especially at the beginning of a story. Really, you probably should not start a story with a dream sequence, because if the reader doesn't know the character, they can't play the role of therapist to try and interpret what the dream means. And in fact, they're actually just going to probably take the literal interpretation and feel like the rug has been pulled out from under them when they learn that, oh, it's not real. It's just a dream. None of that mattered. There were no stakes. Nothing was built up. There's no conflict. That was a complete waste of time. How dare you, writer? But let's say the dream happens slightly deeper in the story, after the character has been introduced, after you are engaged with the protagonist and you understand a thing or two about them. Well, can it be done right then? I think a lot of people still have basically a rejection of it as a rule of thumb. Dreams bad, don't do it. Maybe that's true, because I think the difficulty that you'll run into trying to do a good dream sequence is to simultaneously write a dream that feels like a dream, that has the nonsensical dream logic that is how they're actually constructed. Like, you can rationally tell the difference between it's something happening in a dream and something happening in reality. It's just that you as the dreamer can't tell the difference because your rational faculties are a bit dulled. So the reader needs to be able to know that it's a dream, see that it is symbolically meaningful in relation to the character that they know, and the reader has to be able to pick apart what it potentially means if they work at it. The problem is that so often the symbolism is so on the nose that it's annoying. And I'm vaguely remembering probably 24 TV shows where I've seen just like the what is probably the Freudian interpretation of fears and desires getting assaulting the ego within the dream, right? And they're just cringe, kind of, you know? No one really likes those. But I think if you take the Jungian approach, where it is the subconscious trying to communicate an idea that the ego has been ignoring or neglecting or needs to bring into itself, but is doing it in a cryptic manner, it becomes more like a internal prophecy. And everyone loves a good prophecy. It's just that people don't like deterministic futures, right? No, if something has been prophesied to happen, must it happen? Can you change it? Does anything matter if you can't, etc., etc.? But in this context, it's actually more like the person has already realized something, but they don't realize they've realized it, and you can set up and then pay off a lot of character development like that if you can do it right. Unfortunately, I don't have a particularly great example of anyone doing that right now. My mind keeps circling around Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, but I haven't finished that series. which I'm told that it is a series that you almost need to read twice. You need to read through the entire series, and then probably read it again, and then maybe you will have figured out the layers of complexity and meaning that were put into that book series. Unfortunately, I've only read Shadow of the Torturer, and it was really good. I do recommend it. I just haven't gotten around to finishing that series, but it does strike me as the only book to come to mind that is utilizing dreams and illusions well. Unfortunately, just like I am not a Jung expert, I am not a Jane Wolfe expert yet, so I will make videos about that in the future, because I'm definitely going to be recommending that series once I finish it. So, to cap it off though, short video, because as I said, Jung is a huge subject that you could probably find tens of thousands of secondary sources discussing his ideas, his methodologies, some of his analyses, what it means for something to be a sign or a signifier or the thing signified. It's very complicated, and unfortunately, I'm just not currently the guy to explain a lot of it. But I did want to talk about how it can apply to writing and some of the pitfalls, and specifically about the dreams, the ways that they can be used and the ways that they are used wrong, and how they get covered up by, it's just an excuse for the writer to do something indulgent and bad. And then readers get that bad reaction of painting it with a broad brush. Oh, it's all terrible, because it's so rare to find it good. So that's just my thoughts on the matter that I wanted to share here on this Friday. Please drop a like, drop a subscribe, tell your friends, leave a comment below, and boost me in the algorithm. And stay tuned. Cheers.